Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of Inside the Huddle. Joined with new Winamac boys basketball coach Cameron Bennington. And first of all, Coach, thanks for joining Pitt Viper Sports Indiana.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get going here at Winamac and excited to talk with you today.
Coach, what was it about Winamac that stood out to you and prompted you to throw your hat in the ring as a first-year coach?
Yeah, I think it goes back to my playing days back in high school at Twin Lakes. So we always opened the year with Winamac, and being a bigger school, a school like Twin Lakes, you kind of always go into the game thinking that you're going to win. And that game was always closer than you thought it should have been. And it wasn't necessarily always because we didn't play well. I think it was kind of the persona that the Winamac kids and the Winamac teams always had. They played really, really hard at all times. And I think that's kind of lasted, as you can see the success they've had in football and other sports. I think that's when a characteristic of Winamac kids is that they play hard. And then you look at the leadership from the AD and the principal there. Mr. Leverance and Mr. Hook are two great leaders. And then they were really, really kind of convincing. Whether they were trying to convince me or not, they were really convincing and making me want to be a part of what they're building there at Winamac. So I'm just really excited to get over there and get to work this summer.
You mentioned your time at Twin Lakes, and you were an accomplished player in your own right, leading them to a sectional title in 2014 as a basketball player, but you were also a football standout, White County Player of the Year. Coach, when you look back on your high school career, first off, what stands out to you? And second of all, if you could, talk a little bit about the impact that your grandfather, Ted, had on you as a player and now as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I even start on that, I'd like to thank you for pointing out that I was a player too, because a lot of times nowadays people like to refer to me as Bryson Blake's older brother. My little brothers were on the Twin Lakes team that went to the state final, or older brother, they were on that state team that Twin Lakes had, state runner-up team back in 2017. Everyone seems to forget about me ever since that happened. So it's nice every now and then when people point out that I still played sports back in high school too. But yeah, no, I loved being at Twin Lakes. Twin Lakes was a great place to grow up. Monticello, the community, really loved sports. And I think what stands out to me is kind of the family environment that I felt we had. Not only just, talking about the team, but the community. I felt like it was a very, very supported program. And again, that's the thing that I think it encouraged me to come to Winamac, is Winamac's a community that loves sports. And you can see that, just by when I was over there the other night after the meeting, we went to dinner and I met multiple people that just came up and wished me well and wished me good luck. And I think the family environment and the community at Twin Lakes is probably the thing that stands out to me the most. And the support we had from students to parents to community members that had no dogs in the fight anymore, that we're just happy to be there. So I think that's what stands out to me the most about that time, winning a sectional in basketball, getting close to doing it in football. All that stuff was great, but the relationships and the family aspect that I kind of was fortunate to be thrown into at Twin Lakes was great. And then, you mentioned my grandfather, Ted, and he passed away my freshman year of high school, right after the sectional. And I still go back to the last, pregame talk I always had with him. He would call me all the time, and give me pregame speeches and, give me his opinion on things. And the last time he called, and he was pretty close to passing away, and he wasn't doing very well. And it was before my first sectional game. I was going to start as a freshman in the sectional, and we were getting ready to play West Lafayette. And he called me on the phone and he said, a lot of people are going to tell you that, it's just another game and just to prepare. And he said, I'm here to tell you that that's BS. This is Indiana, and sectionals are different here. And I've remembered that ever since. That's the last time I ever talked to him. And he's a guy that, back in the 60s was one of the top scorers in the state of Indiana. He never faulted me for having a poor shooting night, a poor, or just a night in general where my skills maybe were a letdown. But what he did always, he holding me accountable for was my effort. And that's something that I've tried to remember throughout my life. He instilled that in my father, and my father instilled that in me. And then the two of them growing up, along with, my mother and the other members of my family, always have held me accountable. But when I think about my grandpa, I always think about, are you doing things the right way? And the only right way to do it is 100%. And I try to take that from playing now into coaching when it comes to a scouting report, when it comes to practice, are you doing it 100%? Because if you're not, you really shouldn't be doing it.
Coach, you got your feet wet in coaching a little bit at Hanover and IUPUI. You played football and basketball at Hanover, if I'm correct, before a season-ending injury. How do you think those experiences have helped prepare you for what's coming up at Winamac?
Yeah, no, those experiences have done a lot for me, and they're two very different experiences, right? I mean, being at Hanover was, I thought I was going to play, I thought I was going to have a career there, and the injury happened. I get my ankle reconstructed, and then Coach Miller threw me into that student assistant role, and I owe him a lot of credit for where I've gotten to today. It was only 1 year with him as a student assistant, but I learned a lot from. And it's not always about X's and O's. I think that we can go through and talk about all the experiences you've had coaching and X's and O's. You can learn a lot of different things from a lot of different people. Bob Knight and John Wooden, two completely different philosophies when it comes to offense, but they're both in the Hall of Fame. And today with YouTube and everything, you can teach yourself and figure stuff out all you want, but the real lessons, on a player development, on making relationships with kids and things like that. Back at Hanover, I learned a lot from Coach Miller at Hanover, and then on to IUPUI, kind of same thing. That was a completely different situation when I went there to be a student manager and student assistant there for the next year, and learned a lot from Coach Gardner and Coach Crenshaw, Coach Gillespie, some of the guys that were there. They made a big influence on me just in seeing how they prepared and the diligence that they put into scouting reports and watching film and making sure that we were prepared every single night. And that's something that I still try to do. And sometimes my dad has to remind me, hey, that, you got to coach the game too. It's not all about the scouting report too, because I get a little in love with the scouting aspect of it. Those coaches have had a profound impact on me, from Hanover to IUPUI. I for sure wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for any of them.
We're joined today with new Winamac boys basketball coach Cameron Bennington. And Coach, I know it's very fresh in terms of you being named the boys coach at Winamac, and I know you pride yourself on scouting reports, so you may not know a lot about what you got returning up there for a team that went 9-14 this past season. What can fans expect out of the Winamac team under your leadership, and do you know of any kids right off the bat that you're going to be expecting some big things out of?
Yeah, no, so I haven't got to meet the kids yet. I'm excited. Next Monday, I'm going to go up to Winamac and have a chance to sit down with the kids and meet them for the first time. And truthfully, I don't know a lot about them in terms of what's coming back and what's not, player by player basis. We've had plenty of conversations about the state of the program and where things are. And it looks like we're going to have a pretty young team next year. We graduated a big senior class, but everyone seems to think there's a great group of underclassmen that are ready to kind of make that jump. So it's going to be a roster filled with a lot of first-time varsity players, which, is good for me because I think that helps a total fresh start. It's not, a bunch of coming back veterans that are used to one coach coming in and then a new coach coming in and changing a bunch of things. But it also has the negative effects of being a very young team, having a lot of first-time varsity players. We're probably going to have some moments where things don't go well, and there's going to be some learning moments. But, I'm excited to hit the ground running with that. At the end of the day, what people can expect from me and from where I'm at, I guess, stepping in is that I'm not coming in with the mindset of that we got to do a complete rebuild here. I'm not at a point where, hey, we're going to have a couple down years and try to get this thing back up and build up. I don't think that this program's in a terrible spot by any means. I want our kids to expect to win right now. I'm not here to tell you that, we're going to go, like LeBron and talk about how many championships we're going to win and all that kind of stuff. But, we're going into this season looking to be competitive in every game we play in. And that's the goal. And I think that word competitive and the word compete, we want to compete and expect to win every night. And I think that characteristic or that persona that Winamac kids are working hard gives off, I hope we continue that. And that's one thing that we're going to work hard. And we're going to pride ourselves in being prepared and never getting outworked. And, offensively, defensively, we can sit here and talk about the X's and O's and what I'm going to run and what I'm not going to run, what I believe works defensively. But at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff doesn't matter until I get to know the kids and know what we got, know what's going to fit in our system and things like that. Offensively, I'd love to say that we're going to get out in transition and we're going to play in fast break and play in a up-tempo game. But, that may not always be the best thing for us every night. So a lot of that, I think I'll be able to decide later on. But, offensively, as long as we're valuing the ball and taking good shots and executing with good spacing, I don't think that necessarily what system matters. If you can value the ball and take good shots with good spacing, I think a lot of different systems will work for you. And kind of the same thing defensively. There's some core principles that you got to be good at. We want to make people uncomfortable. We don't want it to be easy on them. But that could be done through a zone or it can be done through a man. It can be done through switching. It can be done through trapping, a lot of that stuff's going to be answered probably here in the next couple of weeks, but I'm just really excited to get started.
Well, Coach, we wish you the best. Thanks for hopping on and joining us today. And we look forward to making the trip up to Winamac and watching you play this season.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.